Anyone can sell electronics. At Electronics Expo, they do more than sell products. They design, install, and support complete technology solutions. From home theaters and whole home audio to lighting, shades, automation, networking, security cameras, and premium entertainment systems. For over 22 years, they've helped thousands of homeowners experience technology at its very best. See the difference for yourself. Visit their Wayne or Paramus stores in New Jersey or shop now at electronicsexpo.com.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
And welcome, everybody, on this Thursday night. Wow. Again, it's July. It should be the slow time of year as far as news. Nope. Not in this political environment. No question about it. So, as you may have heard, Graham Platner is out. And again, the reason why we talk about this so much is because the Maine Senate race could decide who controls the Senate in terms of blue versus red, Republican versus Democrat. And there's a very, very good chance, like Kalshi, the betting markets have Democrats taking back the House at something like, I'm looking at it here, 84%. All right, so it's one thing if Democrats control the House, but not the Senate. It's something entirely different if they control the House and the Senate. Now, President Trump could still serve as a guy with a pen, with the veto power. I get that completely. But let's say the Supreme Court justice decides to retire or die. Then if you don't control the Senate, you're not getting that nominee through. It's a big, big deal who controls the Senate. And many people believe that who wins Maine ends up controlling the Senate. I don't believe that. I think that Republicans hold on to Ohio, Iowa, they flip Michigan, and then they probably keep Maine. And Georgia, all right, John Ossoff probably will win there. Maybe North Carolina, they win there as well. But in the end, Republicans could either have 54, 53, 52 seats, but certainly they're not going to be in the minority. Nevertheless, it's worth talking about that Graham Platner is now dropped out. And the thing about this whole thing is, I go two ways on this, quite frankly. On one hand, you have credible women coming forward, and there is a pattern here completely. Graham Platner, obviously, is toxic. He is abusive. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 women that have come forward. All have dated him. Not like, I heard that he may have acted this way. No. This is somebody who obviously treats women very poorly. At one point, he's blackout drunk with one woman who comes forward and says that I never felt like I was in control anymore and I had to make a choice. Do I just basically acquiesce and do what's least harmful to me? In other words, let the guy have sex with me. Or do I fight back? And again, this is somebody who's former military. It's easy for anybody to sit out there and say, well, just fight back. Yeah, okay. All right. Again, men playing against women in sports, except this is a military guy, a big guy, a wide guy. And you're probably not going to win that fight. So you have to decide what to do in that situation. I couldn't even imagine what these women went through when they're thinking that. All of that said, the timeline is very, very questionable because here we are, July 9th, on this Thursday night. And by July 13th, Democrats have to decide who their nominee is. In other words, vote on it. And after July 13th, if Graham Platner is your nominee, then you're stuck with him. And the party knows that. So like we saw with Eric Swalwell out in California, gubernatorial candidate, who obviously had not just skeletons in the closet, like skeletons, like a graveyard level of skeletons in terms of women who said that this guy over and over may have drugged them and then had sex with them. This is all apparently known within Washington circles. Democrats knew it as well. So they took Swalwell out knowing that, okay, if it gets to a general election, Steve Hilton versus Eric Swalwell, and he was leading in polls as far as who will be the Democrat to emerge from that race. Well, if he did, and then these allegations come out, and then you're stuck, you can't replace him, well, you're screwed completely and totally. So they took him out. Just like with Joe Biden. His brain turns to anchovies. June 27th, 2024, Atlanta, Georgia, debate against Donald Trump. And quite frankly, it didn't turn then. It turned 5 years ago. We all knew this, but nevertheless, there it was on national television without the ability to edit, without the ability to homogenize Joe Biden's condition. We knew it forever. We talked about it forever on Fox and elsewhere. But then it finally came out. So then he had to be replaced. So they recruited, George Clooney, write an op-ed, because that's far more effective than if Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi does, because it's Clooney, Danny Ocean, I guess. And he got taken out. So now this is what's happening with Platner, or happened with Platner. He's out, and now they'll replace him. A Hail Mary. Except the thing about Hail Marys, as somebody who watches football a lot, they generally don't work. Like 98% of the time don't work, unless Aaron Rodgers is throwing it, which he has a bizarre ability to complete these things. But otherwise, it's not an effective strategy, offense. But nonetheless, they figured they can't win with this guy. And if these allegations came out after they're stuck with him, as far as rape, outright rape, they're screwed. So they're going to go with this other guy, Troy Jackson, who is like the Temu version of Platner. And you never want to be the Temu version of anything. Well, let's look back, shall we? Because, again, I have talked about this over and over again. How do you defend a guy like Graham Platner before these allegations as far as rape? Just go back to black people don't tip. Just go back to the fact that this guy is a communist who wants to defund the police, who wants to dismantle ICE, who wants to end all funding for border security. The guy who has said, actually visited predatory websites, who mocked Purple Heart recipients, that MRFer deserved to die, the guy who took 4 bullets for a platoon by the Taliban. This is the worst candidate you could possibly imagine. And Democrats still supported him until they couldn't. Not because of the rape allegations, because polling was going the way they didn't want, just like it did with Biden, just like it was with Swalwell, over and over. This has nothing to do with morality and taking a stand for women. This has everything to do with who can win and who can we eliminate to then therefore Hail Mary and replace somebody. Well, here are Democrats defending Graham Platner. I'm going to play the whole 4 minutes here because, you know what? It's that damning. This party is so effed, they don't even realize it. Maybe they do. Not sure. Cut number 21, go.
The obsession with personal purity, we're not hiring a priest. We're hiring a senator. We're going to talk about tattoos and sexting. He gets a hall pass.
I don't give a if somebody had a toxic relationship, toxic relationships and tattoos and all of this talk about Susan Collins.
He could be 100 times more up than he is. He'd never be as up as what we got in Washington now anyway. What I'm more outraged about is stupid Susan Collins. I ask all of you to consider the candidacy of Graham Platner. I ask all of you to understand his flaws.
Are you rescinding your support for Graham Platner after the lewd posts that leaked?
What's the polling in Maine right now?
I don't get bothered by it as much. None of it. He's someone who had a drinking problem as a Marine.
Platner has owned up to mistakes he made as a younger guy. Do I want to make the best the enemy of the good?
Graham Platner is popular even though he is flawed. He is a flawed man, just like I'm a flawed man. And this is the key. Everybody is flawed at some level.
No one's perfect. All politicians have baggage. This just happens to be a candidate that has baggage.
He's got an anti-Semitic tattoo.
I feel like this president is saying, I hate black people.
I like Graham Platner. You like Graham Platner?
That's my kind of man.
I would vote for Platner. Let's get some power. Yeah. Let's take over the Senate. Let's take over the House.
Somebody that has put his life on the line for this country against somebody that is literally empowering the moral hollowing out of our nation.
He had 2 tours of duty in Iraq. He came back broken in a dark place. He took accountability. He acknowledges that he was misogynistic, was toxicity, and there was a verbal intimidation, which I condemn. It happened in a dark period of his life. He's taken accountability. He started an oyster farm. He was on the ocean for years. He found himself, look, let's give him some grace.
He went into combat on behalf of the United States. He went through a really rough period. Yeah. PTSD type period.
Graham clearly made a mistake, and I've been on CNN saying that what I appreciated about him is that he owned that mistake. You know, what is disqualifying is having a senator in Maine who just does Donald Trump's bidding.
This is a guy who has served this country, who has gone through some really tough things. If this is going to be a character election in Maine, there is a question of character in continuing to support a president that is terrorizing immigrants.
I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Graham Platner is the next senator from the state of Maine.
You know, all those Bible-clutching Christians voted for the guy who we all heard boast about sexual assault. Democrats have to take over the Senate. They have to take over the House. If I lived in Maine, I would hold my nose and I would pull that lever and I would vote for him.
Maybe we should be focusing on the important issues facing working people throughout this country, not focusing on his marriage.
It doesn't matter because he's right about what's wrong.
Sometimes you make alliances that you would not have made under a different set of circumstances. Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, who did they work with? Well, Joseph Stalin. His imperfections are imperfections that we can all identify with.
I'm not going to sit here and judge Mainers who want to push against the status quo. It's not my place to judge. If Graham Platner can earn their trust, then he earns their trust.
He thinks he's a changed person, a transformed person. I believe him.
Graham Platner is no Nazi. I don't think that he's a racist in any way. His relationship with his wife is his relationship with his wife. It's all about, leaked consensual, stuff.
The accusations against Graham Platner are not classic Me Too accusations, not like classic abuse allegations. Of course, in the Access Hollywood tape, President Trump bragged about grabbing women against their will. Gender-related accusations get bundled together, but they're actually very different.
But Trump. Oh, I love this. Again, I never play 4-minute clips on this show ever. That was worth it. Again, if you trust the media, then you trust gas station sushi. These people will say anything to get Democrats elected. It does not matter in any way, shape, or form what the allegations are, who the person is. Graham Platner, as I've said, as I've given example after example on this show, for months, is not a good person. He has insulted every possible demographic, he meant to say, and sex and race and everything forever. Blacks, women, veterans, it doesn't matter. And Democrats still tried to prop this guy up. And now they're all going to pretend that they were lied to. It's like Biden. Like, we didn't know. We didn't know what was happening. We were lied to. We were misled. Good luck with that. All right. So now we get Timu Platner, whoever that may be. In the end, I'll leave it here. The party that said over and over again that they are here and they exist to protect democracy. Democrats say that against Trump, against MAGA, against Republicans. Now they're going to install a candidate in Maine like they did with Kamala. And it's not going to work because Hail Marys never get completed, except if it's Aaron Rodgers, which, again, is a weird thing. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Where liberalism is a no-go. The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
And welcome back, everybody. So let's go off the Platner stuff for a moment, and let's get to the true story of the day. Actually, not really, but I love talking about this stuff on here. As you know, we do the sports thing once in a while, but not so much like X's and O's. And here is the slant route that the Giants could run with Jackson Dart to Neighbors to beat the Redskins kind of thing. Well, Commanders, whoever they are. The point is that I've always had this thing about LeBron James and the fact that he's called the king. And that's really been very bothersome. The fact that he's gone to the NBA Finals 10 times and has lost 6 times. 60% of the time, LeBron James loses. He's won 4 championships, and that's great. And to get there 10 times, that's great. Even though he tends to go on teams outside of Cleveland that have been stacked, right? The Lakers, the Heat, whatever. Now, he's left the Lakers because they can't win, and he may go to the Sixers, who are in a very good position to win at this point, given some offseason stuff going on, or maybe Golden State, which with Steph Curry, you always have a shot. But Charles Barkley, well, he has a perspective on this, and I love Charles. I love Sir Charles. I love the fact that this guy is candid. And he always makes common sense, which is why he gets paid what he does, which is a lot more money than almost anybody in broadcasting, regardless of what we're talking about, because the guy knows how to make an argument and he has credibility and he is believable. Now, all that said, cut number 20, here's what LeBron is doing by either going to the Sixers or to the Warriors in Golden State and not back to Cleveland, where he should go to end his career. And there's a reason for this. And there are 2 letters that go along with this argument, and that is MJ. Cut number 20, go.
The biggest criticism of LeBron James has always been that he packs his team, because he's always packed his team. Because he's chasing this imaginary Michael Jordan ghost, what he needs to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, whether you, and I love LeBron, he spends more time talking about he's the GOAT. And Michael Jordan says, I never say I'm the GOAT. And then you got these people who argue all the time, which is stupid.
Michael Jordan went to the NBA Finals 6 times in 1 decade. And all 6 times he won and never went to a Game 7. Not once. MVP all 6 times. And by the way, plays great defense. LeBron James has gone to the NBA Finals 10 times and won 4, lost 6. Let's stop this conversation as far as like LeBron being better than Michael, because it is not even remotely accurate. I'll take Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, over LeBron James 1,000 times and 4 times on Sunday, because at least LeBron wasn't a cancer to his team. Unlike LeBron, where he goes there, it's all about him and winning, and not winning for the team, winning for LeBron. So, yeah, go to the Sixers. Good luck with that. He will never be Michael Jordan, LeBron James. That I do know. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
And welcome back, everybody. So, the Democrat Socialists of America, DSA, they are taking over every American city. Mark my words, within 10 years, a majority of American cities will be run by socialists, like Mamdani, like Katie Wilson out in Seattle, like whoever's going to take over in Washington, D.C., or Denver, Colorado, or wherever. It doesn't matter. It's only a matter of time. These people are organized, they have money, and they know how to get out people in primary votes. So if you have a blue city and the Republican can't win, let's take New York, for example, right? New York has run the same candidate over the last 2 elections, Curtis Sliwa, and he has lost by more than 40 points in each of those elections. In other words, the Republican has no shot, especially if it's a cartoon character. That's never good. right? If you have a serious candidate like a Rudy Giuliani or even a Michael Bloomberg, who was Republican at one point, maybe you have a fighting chance if the city is going downhill. Or in Bloomberg's case, Giuliani did such a great job that, well, if you're Bloomberg, just say you're going to run on the same things, you'll probably win. And Giuliani won because of Dinkins. The city was so horribly run, like, de Blasio horribly run. That's the way that works. Now, all of that said, the biggest race in this country will be obviously in Michigan. All right. Abdul al-Sayed, Dr. Abdul al-Sayed. He says he's a doctor. He says he's a physician. He doesn't have a medical license. Funny. And he's very radical. If he wins in Michigan, a purple state, like we talked about earlier, Trump won it twice. You could argue 3 times, depending on where you come from. Well, yeah, but won it very, very narrowly. So it's the ultimate purple state, the ultimate test lab. If a socialist can win statewide, not in a city like Detroit, but statewide, well, then the socialist movement may have some bona fides, as they say. It may have some gravitas. It may end up being AOC being the nominee because maybe America does thirst for socialism outside of major blue American cities and actually in the heartland, like a place like Michigan outside of Detroit. All right, all good. Now, all of that said, here are the true intentions of the Democrat Socialist of America. And trust me, if you're a Democrat establishment, you're horrified. If you're a Republican, you're more horrified. If you're a normal person who just wants normal people in government, you are especially horrified after listening to cut number 19. 19, go.
And, we have a unique responsibility to act from the heart of empire, the belly of the beast. The most important thing that we can do is take that empire down from within.
Our role ultimately is to facilitate our own empire's failure in ways that we can, ultimately to overthrow our own empire.
Imperialism is, U.S. imperialism is not a thing that can be reformed away. It has to be overthrown through revolutionary struggle.
And to build a mass movement that can use the leverage of workers to hit the kill switch on American imperialism here within the American empire.
Oh, really? So in other words, get elected from within and then kill the American empire. That is the plan. And you could listen to Memdani, all the smiles, all the slick social media videos. This is the plan, whether it's Memdani, whether it's Katie Wilson. Listen to Hassan Piker sometime, who has campaigned with Memdani and Katie Wilson and Dr. Abdul al-Sayed in Michigan. That's the plan. Overthrow capitalism and the U.S. experiment in general and take over. That is the plan. And Democrats, establishment ones, should be the first to be like, ruh-roh, they're coming after us next. Don't think you can get along with these people, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. They will destroy you in a heartbeat, happily, and stomp on your political grave. That we do know. Meanwhile, on the right, well, the far right, I don't think there are a lot of Memdani-like people in terms of radical right-wing people, but there are a couple insane people, crazy people, people who should not be taken seriously, and I haven't for years. Don't think that when I criticize Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's because she turned on Trump and therefore, well, I'm a Trump fan, therefore I'm going to protect the president, and I'm going to go after MTG. I've been doing this for years. Ever since she went with the whole Jewish space lasers thing years ago, going after Newsom, and I don't like Gavin Newsom. You guys listen to the show. Of course not. But you can't say that Jewish space lasers are taking out trees in California to help Gavin Newsom build his high-speed rail, and you call it Jewish space lasers. Yeah, that sounds anti-Semitic to me. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene, who also thinks that the government, and again, if you're listening to the show right now and you think that the government can control how hurricanes are tracked, in other words, how they steer themselves towards certain areas of the country. If you think the government can steer a hurricane, turn off your radio. If you follow me on Twitter, get off my feed. You are insane. It is scientifically impossible. And if you believe Marjorie Taylor Greene, then good. Don't follow me. Don't listen to my show. All right? You're an idiot. Oh, you shouldn't talk that way about your audience, Joe. I am pretty sure that my audience, 99.9%, are sane people. But if you believe that, I don't want you listening to me. Don't DM me. Don't go on my Twitter feed. Don't follow me. I don't want any part of you. You're insane. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Meanwhile, here she is talking to TMZ because, wow, she loves microphones. Please give me attention. Oh, she's like the Keith Olbermann of the right. All right, guys. And if you don't believe that, again, get off my show. Don't listen. Don't follow me on Twitter. Don't friend me on Facebook. I want no part of you. Here she is talking about how Mitch McConnell's wife, again, I am no fan of McConnell. He should have retired months, if not years ago. We're all in agreement there. But don't tell me that his wife is a communist spy, as Marjorie does here in cut number 8. Go.
And then also, I want to call this out. This really irritates me. The Republican Party is all campaigning against communism right now. What about Elaine Chao? Elaine Chao flew to China and met with the vice president just a few days after Mitch McConnell practically died and went to the hospital. So when are we going to call out a possible communist Chinese spy right there?
You're calling his wife a possible Chinese spy.
Yes, 100%.
Jewish space lasers girl thinks that Mitch McConnell's wife, who's worked in U.S. government for decades, is a communist spy. Okay. Right. This isn't Fang, sweetheart. And by the way, she was on The View begging to stay on after they said, all right, we're done with the segment. No, she's keeping for the whole show. And Joy Behar said, no. This person only loves attention, nothing more. And I can guarantee you, Marjorie Taylor Greene will run for president. And then idiots, executives, producers over at CNN, as they have done, will put her on and treat her seriously after they mocked and laughed at her for years. Because, well, she's anti-Trump, so that's the goal, right? Ugh. I mean, it's a whole bowl of wrong. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, speaking of MS Now, takes a question here from an MS Now reporter, which is an oxymoron. Let's face it, these are all activists. They're not going to ask fair questions. They have an agenda. We all know this. I'm making very obvious statements, and Trump knows this. And cut number 11, go.
Go ahead, Red.
Mr. President, you said today, Ines Alcantara with MS Now, you said today that countries...
You're with who?
MS Now.
MS Now, that's a failing network. Why would you want to work for them? MS Now, can you imagine? They wanted to get away. They took the name NBC because they were embarrassed by it. Go ahead, let's go. When do you hear this question?
You said...
That's great. It's true. Right? Why would you want to work there? And don't act like you're a reporter. Don't act like you just want truth. You are being sent there to try to get a viral soundbite out of Donald Trump or yourself. Nice pat in the back. Get on Jen Psaki's show. Speaking of Jen, here she is interviewing Graham Platner. And, Platner says, they're trying to scare me out of the race. And Jen's like, yeah, it's so true. They are. Because she's objective. Cut number 25, go.
There's going to be more coming at you. Has your campaign, I'm just putting my own campaign operative hat on here. Has your campaign been working to figure out what an opposition file with any additional allegations might have in it? Do you know that on your end? Have you thought about it?
Oh, I've thought about it extensively. I mean, here's the thing. I've lived my life. I was there the whole time. Much of the allegations that have come out as of late are literally just lies. And so, I don't really, they've already gotten to the point where they're moving into just making things up. And if we're already there, I don't know what else they're going to make up because I don't know what's going around in the very weird minds of Republican operatives. And so the idea that they're going to try to scare me out of this race is rather laughable.
That's certainly what they're trying to do. And even that threat of trying to Biden you as they're calling it is certainly part of that.
They're trying to scare you out of this race. Yeah, they are. It's true, Jen Psaki says. Well, before we go to break, here she is saying, wow, this Platner thing is so enraging. I can't believe you lied to us. You pushed the lie, Jen. Cut number 26, whatever it is. Go.
It is an end to what has been an unpredictable, incredibly tumultuous, at times fascinating simply because of the political story, and ultimately deeply enraging political career for Graham Platner. Enraging for all of us. And we have covered this race from the very beginning on purpose. Because I think it's important that we don't put our heads in the sand and just project upon all of you what we think and only talk to people at a table in Washington, D.C. I think one of the most important things we can do is listen to voters, to watch and to try to understand what is happening in this country, even if it doesn't totally make sense.
Oh, that's great. They're trying to scare you out of this race. Oh, it's so enraging. We should have talked to voters. Oh, no, you didn't, Jen. Show me one time you went out and spoke to voters in Maine. Show me the field report, Jen. No, you won't do that. You stayed in Washington in a nice studio, getting your big salary, and never actually going out and speaking to people the way you lectured you would, because you're a phony, a fraud, and quite frankly, the most overpaid person in cable news, and that is really saying something. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody, as we wrap this puppy up. So, I've heard this before, and I've heard it from people that I didn't expect to hear it from. And it is something that, and I'm sorry that if I'm a little bit hesitant to talk about this, but I can't believe that in at least two cases, people that I thought I respected actually said to me, do you think that the assassination attempt on President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, do you think it was staged? Staged. Okay. So we're to believe that a 20-year-old gunman got up on the one building that has line of sight to President Trump, at the time candidate Trump, on stage. One building. One. Of all, it's a field. I went there. I was in Butler. I did a speech. I went to the field just to see it. Just to see exactly what we were looking at. Wrote a whole book on it. There's one building you had to secure, and no one secured it. Okay. And then this kid, who has no military training, didn't really go to shooting ranges all that much, whatever, gets up there. Actually, he's able to hide a high-powered rifle outside of this building behind an air conditioning unit where the Secret Service or local police, all of them missed it. All of them. The one building you have to make sure is secure. Everybody missed it. Okay. And this kid gets up there. And then once he's found out, in other words, you see the videos and people are like, there's a gunman up there. He decides he has to fire maybe earlier than he wanted to. And because Trump turned his head in a certain way at a certain time to read a chart that he's never read before, at any campaign speech on immigration, the bullet grazes his ear instead of taking his head off. There's blood all over his face. He goes to the ground. He's down there for 86 seconds. And then when he gets up, instead of, again, Secret Service is saying, there's a stretcher over there. Let's get you on there and get you out of here. And when I interviewed the president, he said, and I never heard this before. I think I'm the first person he told this to. And I'm not being braggadocious. I just never heard it before. He said, there was a stretcher over there and there was no effing way. Didn't use that word. I was getting on that stretcher. And I said, well, Mr. President, why did you get up over all your Secret Service people at that moment, not knowing there's another shooter, not knowing if you're in danger? Why would you get up, taller than most of your Secret Service people, and say, fight, fight, fight? And he said, well, because I knew my son was watching, Barron. I knew my wife was watching. I knew my family was watching. I knew the country was watching. I knew the world was watching. And we were not going to let this person stop this, not me, this movement. I found that to be very, very just chilling in a good way, inspiring. Fight, fight, fight. We're going to move forward. Wow. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because a former Kamala Harris advisor, of course, is on CNN, of course, on Abby Phillips' show, who's a profoundly horrible host. Pious, lecturing, condescending, and most likely wrong, and never corrects anybody liberal on her panel, which may explain why she can't even get 600,000 people watching that in prime time, which is really hard to do when you consider that The 5, which isn't in prime time, at 5 o'clock at night, gets 4 million people watching. Or Jesse Waters, Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Gutfeld, 2.5, 3 million without breaking a sweat, even during the summer when people are doing other things. This show can't get 600,000 because of people like this on there talking about how, the Butler thing it wasn't real. It may have been staged. To this day, idiots on the left are saying this. And cut number 5, go.
I mean, Harriet Tubman represents everything that Donald Trump is not, right? There's somebody who put her body on the line, who was a regular person.
Donald Trump was shot and nearly killed for trying to be president.
Stop. Okay,
no, it did happen. I hate to remind you.
Oh, my God. Okay, well, you should talk to the MAGA folks who don't believe that Butler was real, but that's a different conversation.
That's
There's a lot of people out there that are saying, including Candace Owens.
You believe that it's not real?
No, I believe it.
Okay, well, then just accept it.
But regardless.
Wait, can we talk about the bill?
Let's talk about the bill instead of making it about something else. I mean,
oh, you don't think it really happened? What, did he spray ketchup? Like, those ketchup packets on his face? Oh, it was staged. I love that argument. So the 20-year-old kid from 200 yards away is able to only pierce his ear and not take his head off. That is one hell of a shot. Find me that person that could do that under duress, unless it was, real. I hate that stuff. I really do. And yet CNN allows that crap to go on there. And that person that said that, he'll be back. He'll be back over and over again. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett, oh, you got to love her. So she ran for Senate in Texas as a Democrat, got beat by James Tallarico, which, in itself is incredible. Now, Jasmine is blaming race, of course, on why she lost. And cut number 22, go.
In a way that we did in Texas. You see, a lot of haters got a lot of things to say about me and my race and how I ran it. But the reality is that there was a lot of racist, not a lot. It was racist. It was a racist race. It is what it is, right? But we live in America, as y'all are celebrating 250, okay? We know what this country is. But let me...
I lost because of race, not because I'm a profoundly human being, but horrible human being, that in Texas, she can't win. Of course she can't win. Democrats are probably actually happy about that, but they're going to lose anyway, as we do know, because if you are a vegan in Texas, you're not going to win. If you say God is non-binary and you think there are not one, not two, but 6 genders, you probably won't win. All right, before we wrap this puppy up, you got to hear this. Ellen Page, all right, who was in Inception, great Chris Nolan movie, several movies, pretty good actress. Here she is on Colbert Show talking about how the world will be over, like done in 2030, which is, I guess, 3.5 years from now, unless we do something about climate change. Save the tape on this one. Cut number 16, go.
It's such a there's such a long time span where these effects will happen in really dramatic ways.
Is it that long? I think they're happening, these effects. This is something that's happening. And it's happening to the most marginalized people, and we need to be talking about it. It's really serious. We've been told, as we know it, that by 2030, the world as we know it, that's it.
That's it. Well, I guess we're doing okay, right? Because now Ellen Page, by the way, is now Elliot Page. She became a he. And the world seems to be doing just fine right now in 2026, July 9th. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This has been the Joe Concha Show. We're back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on WABC and on stations around the country, around the world. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.